Bar for Bar album reviews. Nas, King's Disease. King's Disease is the 13th album from legendary rapper Nas, and for this tape he brought in Hit Boy to handle the production. Maybe finally realizing that most people don't really care for the production that he chooses normally. The title of his album refers to gout, which is called the King's Disease because during those times it was thought to be caused due to gluttony and excessive alcohol consumption. Typically things that only kings or people of a higher status could have access to. This album follows the poorly received Kanye-produced Nasir, as well as Lost Tapes 2, which I personally didn't really care for. As with every Nas project, I have high expectations, and I feel like they were met this time around. This album comes in at a total runtime of 38 minutes with 13 tracks, so a pretty quick listen. The 13th track is a bonus track too, so really just 12 tracks for the album proper. That's great here because it allows listeners to basically have it on repeat and understand what he's saying in each track. Regarding the title of this album, I think Nas also chose to name it King's Disease as a way of him saying that this disease was pushing him to be a king. The disease, I feel, could just be all the things that have happened throughout his career, but it could also just be the hunger to keep doing more, whether that be within rap or outside of rap. It could also just be like talking about the side effects of King's Disease, where he just might ignore certain things or kind of forget about things. The first track is King's Disease. And this track is a really good intro to the album because the instrumental chosen here is pretty stripped down and it's just enough to make it feel like Nas is trying to talk to you. The whole track is basically just talking about king shit, and he makes plenty of references to king stuff. It starts out with him talking about himself as a king as a means to be respected, and then it leads to him saying how people should be respecting black men as if they are kings. This is made clearer with the line, "The stupidest part of Africa produced blacks that started algebra." He uses stupidest because of the prejudice that people have thinking that black people are stupid, but also in a way to say that algebra is the least significant thing to come out of Africa. Everything else has been bigger or more important. The next track we get is Blue Benz. The track is titled this probably because of the line, "I knew this chick, she had a blue Benz." The song is about his come up though, which would eventually lead him to the point where he could buy a blue Benz. I mean, Benz are still pretty classy, right? The majority of the song is focused on comparing his younger days to where he currently is, which brings us to the second verse. In that second verse, he raps from his current position, talking about all the things that he's doing at his level now. It could also just be seen as him rapping from Escobar's point of view, which has really just kind of become an alter ego for him at this point. Car 85 is a song about how Nas used to hail the higher end, more fancy cab services back in the day. This back then was really just kind of a flex, and it really still is today. It's kind of like ordering an Uber Lux today's. He talks about places he'd go and how Car 85 was always his mode of transportation. The driver was always the same, and it seems like they always had this sort of working relationship. This is a pretty good ride-around song and continues the theme of keeping the beats a bit more stripped back, allowing for Nas to be the focus. Ultra Black talks a lot about black things. It's meant to be a song about black excellence and promoting black unity. I took a deeper look at it a bit ago, so if you want, check out that video for a better analysis of that track. The fifth track on this album is 27 Summers, and it's definitely one of my favorites due to how Nas is rapping over this just big beat. The biggest issue with it is that it's just the shortest track on the album. The title of the song comes from the amount of summers that have passed since Nas dropped Illmatic. This track also has Nas talking about things that have changed in his life and what he's doing now given his position. This track is less of a comparison track and more of him just talking about all the higher class king stuff he's doing. The chorus is really the only reference to a comparison because he says 27 summers, that wasn't even the goal, which makes it seem like he didn't even expect to be relevant this long. Replace Me is the first track with a feature verse. This track features Don Toliver and Big Sean. The whole idea of this track is that you can't replace Nas and he's one of one. With both Nas and Big Sean's verses, they're basically speaking from a relationship standpoint, saying, you're not going to be able to replace me if this were to end. They both also provide evidence to support these claims, mostly them saying that they know a lot and understand a lot about the person that they're in a relationship with. Don Toliver doesn't have a verse here, but he does a pretty good job in the chorus, and at first, honestly, I was a little bit concerned that he wouldn't fit, but turned out pretty good. Till the War Is Won features Lil Durk, and the track touches on a lot of the lack of respect that black women, single mothers, and black mothers receive. While I respect the sentiments on this track, the beat and the way Nas is rapping is kind of to me. Also, the line about beating women was a bit interesting considering the allegations that Nas has are surrounding his previous relationships, and not just limited to what Khaleesa said. But I'm not going to say too much about that because the last time I did, some PR people came at me. Lil Durk did what I expected, so he was fine. This isn't really meant to say that the song is bad, it's just not one of my favorites, kind of due to how it sounds. It still has a good message though, and it shouldn't be ignored. This brings us to the 8th track on the album, All Bad, featuring Anderson .Paak. And I feel like anytime Anderson .Paak's on a song, it's really just an Anderson .Paak song featuring whoever the artist is, even if it's a feature. But this song is interesting because it's not something I would expect Nas to rap over, but it sounds good. And Anderson .Paak always makes songs better. The song is about a lost love or losing someone that you had great chemistry with, but for one reason or another, things didn't work out. The way Nas is talking about it, it sounds like he's saying, damn, I thought we were cool and I thought we were endgame or something. Guess not. In Nas' last verse, he elaborates a little bit more, saying that he must not be used to relationships with younger people and that the biggest issue that he's run into is maturity. Or at least that's what I got from it. The Definition is another one of my favorite songs, and again, it's one of the shorter songs. I really enjoyed it because it feels like he's just basically rapping straight through with one verse. I also appreciate the content here. At first, the title could be seen as a definition of King's disease, which Nas does touch on towards the end, but I feel like it's more of the definition of black people in America as seen by the government, especially with the line, "Here come the people, run my people, they don't treat us equal." He also tries to expose some of the more well-known negative aspects of the government with, "I'm talking the law for me, freedom is illegal, tape telephone conversations, what kind of nation, got 300 million people they investigating, I know they're trying to watch me, a Russian oligarchy." This touches on the fact that although we have the freedom of speech, we just need to make sure we don't say anything bad about the government. It also mentions phone taps and the idea that Russia has some sort of play in recent elections, as well as their potential interference over the years. He also touches on Gayle King, who most recently decided it was okay to ask Lisa Leslie about Kobe's rape allegations a few days after he passed away. It could also just be in reference to the fact that both her and Oprah tend to be harder on black people when it comes to allegations, but when it's a white person, they don't say anything. He then ends the track telling you that, get some lemongrass, cherries, and alkaline water. Your gout might get better and maybe, or at least under control, This brings us to my favorite track on the album, Full Circle. The track really just brings us the reunion of the firm, which is comprised of AZ, Foxy Brown, and Cormega. It even brings in Dr. Dre for an outro. There's a lot to like about it. Mostly, it's just them having fun though. And the beat makes it really fun too. It really just feels like they all finally got back together and just acting like the old days. This brings us to 10 points, and this song is really just talking about King stuff and behavior again. Nas also brings up some things that people might not know with the lines, "King, Michael Jordan gives back and he didn't know it, like LeBron does, but it's just seldom they show it." This touches on the idea that people with money in the community are doing things to support the community without making a big deal about it. This mostly serves as an example to listeners saying, yo, you should try to do things that will help your community thrive, even if you don't get attention for it. But also don't just do things for the attention, because then it just kind of feels disingenuous. He ends the track saying, you don't have to try and please everyone. Just keep doing you, King. The final song of this album that isn't a bonus track is The Cure. And it has Nas getting a little more introspective as he reminisces about his career and life up to this point. He talks about how sometimes things happen that are out of your control and you just kind of got to work around them and work them out rather than just letting things happen to you. There's a beat switch halfway through the track, and it's an interesting switch. The second verse has him really just talking about his life in a different light from what we've seen earlier on in this tape. It's really good, and I like this as a proper end to the album. The bonus track here is Spicy, featuring Fivio Foreign and A$AP Ferg. I treat the song as a coming together of the generations, even though Fivio Foreign is basically the same age as A$AP Ferg at this point. But each rapper kind of has their own flow and style that they excel in. There's different ages of New York rap. And, it's a pretty fun song. Overall, this is one of Nas's better albums in recent years. It still doesn't even come close to his early career, but considering that he's been in the game for nearly 30 years, that's okay to me. Nas has already proven himself to many that he is one of the best to do it. The issue really is that people have really high expectations of him. I personally have turned down my expectations since the release of Nasir, so I'm pretty happy with this. The biggest complaint that I have about this album is that there are many topics discussed here that I feel like Nas should have and totally can go deeper into. Like, he is very passionate about certain topics, and you can hear it in his voice, and you just kind of want him to elaborate a little more. My favorite tracks on this album are Full Circle, 27 Summers, All Bad, The Definition, and The Cure. So with this album, Nas pretty much gave us what I feel like he's been wanting to release for years now. He touches on a lot of things that he's passionate about, and he does it really well. Hopefully we see this trend continue with Nas, or he has said that he's working on like this secret project, so who knows, it might come sooner than later. Anyways, that's all I got as far as this review goes. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this album, whether or not it compares at all to his previous works, or if it's just kind of like the new standard for Nas. Also, like and subscribe if you want to see more reviews and content like this. Thank you for watching, and please stay safe out there.